When most people move away from home for the first time, they miss their mom's cooking. Me? I miss my mom's kitchen. I know, the kitchen in my apartment is cozy, but sometimes it feels like just another word for cramped. I definitely need to learn how to make the most of my small space. And for that, I'm going straight to the experts. The people behind those gourmet food trucks. I'll learn to maximize my small kitchen's potential. And I might also pick up a tip or two about how to make the best grilled cheese sandwich you've ever tasted. Gourmet food trucks are a fun and funky part of the restaurant scene. They're operated by a new breed of chefs serving some of the best and most creative food around. And they are doing so in some very small spaces, like Michelle Grant of the Grilled Cheese Truck.
So Claire, welcome to the Grilled Cheese Truck.
Well, thanks for having me. I mean, looking at the space, you can tell it's an exercise in organization.
Oh my God, you have no idea. It's crazy in here. It's tiny, it's like the size of it's a small galley kitchen essentially,
yes.
But it's our entire restaurant on wheels.
Well, what I love, when you say it's a restaurant on wheels, it's not a kitchen on wheels, it's a restaurant on wheels.
No, it's the whole thing. It's the entire restaurant on wheels. We're basically a quick serve restaurant that rolls around to all the different parts of LA and serves great, delicious grilled cheese sandwiches.
Oh my gosh, well, give me the grand tour. I know it's a very small grand tour.
So basically, we have this door that's over here. If this door is closed, that driver's compartment is, no food is allowed in there, according to health departments and things like that, which if you notice, everything in here is really, all stainless steel and easier to clean. Cleanliness, especially in a small space like this, is paramount. And that's the same thing actually in a small kitchen.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you clean as you go. That way you always have room to keep going, because if you end up with a whole pile of dirty dishes, then suddenly you don't have room to keep going with whatever the project is.
I always have a sink full of dishes, so I need to start, doing that.
Yeah, clean as you go. And this is actually our kitchen and our prep space.
Wow.
And so all the sandwiches get made here. It gets awfully tight in here, because we have usually somewhere around 4 to 5 people in the truck at all times.
Oh my goodness.
This is the area where we keep what we call our mise en place. And that's a really fancy way of saying the stuff that we're going to use that's already prepped. Mm-hmm. And all of them are always in these square rectangular containers. Yes. But again, deeper than wider, so that way you get the most out of whatever you're doing.
Out of a small amount of space.
Exactly. The thing is, grilled cheese is such a personal thing. We can't have everything in here. Mm-hmm. Somebody wants to come up and make their version of their memory of the best grilled cheese ever. It's our hope that we'll have the ingredients on board to be able to help them make that. And that brings us to our bread. And this is a perfect example. If you look right over here, we can stack it up kind of like building blocks. Every spot that we can put bread, there's bread.
Looking at the bread, you can see that you're organizing upward.
Always.
All over. Rather than sprawling out, it's about using that vertical space.
With any small space, whether it's on wheels or in an apartment, you have to use your space as economically as possible.
It reminds me of in college, lofting all of your beds.
Exactly.
And having your desk underneath it.
Exactly.
And so you all of a sudden took a very small space and created 3 different compartments.
Necessity is the mother of invention. You have to use the space that you have to the best capacity.
And you can really see it all in action when Grilled Cheese Truck founder Dave Danny steps into the kitchen and starts making sandwiches.
When it comes to grilled cheese, I'm a purist. It's great butter, great cheese, and the right bread. The wonderful thing about working in a small space, you've got stuff there, just use your imagination putting it together to form a great grilled cheese.
So it's kind of like the ultimate picky eater comfort food snack.
Exactly. I call it a culinary common denominator. Everybody was brought up on grilled cheeses, so it's kind of what we do is we like to think that we take your childhood memories and feed your adult palate.
I love that.
Well, let me show you what I'm talking about, in
Fantastic.
my opinion. First, you got to start with the quality bread. We have this baked by an artisanal bakery for us. This is our mayonnaise butter mix.
Interesting.
And what this helps you do, it lets you leave the sandwich on the grill a little bit longer. When you have a thicker sandwich that's more stuff in it, you don't want it to burn, and you want to be able to melt that stuff in the middle.
And so with the mayonnaise, it basically prevents the butter from burning too quickly?
It raises the smoking temperature of the butter, and it also helps give it a much more consistent golden brown, and to me it makes it a little bit crispier. We're going to grab some wonderful sharp cheddar cheese. I like sharp cheddar, I like a little bit of a bite to it. And again, buttered side out. And then what we'll do is put this right onto the grill.
Oh, listen to that sizzle.
And you don't want it too hot. You want your griddle at about 350 degrees.
Oh, okay.
And we'll put the butter on the top. Now what we like to use is a bacon press. So we use this, it gets all the bread pushed down on.
Oh yeah, it's very gentle.
Exactly, it helps contain the heat.
I'm having trouble containing myself as Dave grills his sandwich. But I know he still has a few more tips to show me. Then I'm off to another food truck to explore a modern take on classic Indian flavors, before bringing everything I learned back home. I'm liking my kitchen more already. Watching Dave at work, I understand why people will wait an hour or more to get a taste of his classic grilled cheese sandwich. But when it comes to grilled cheese, Dave has more than a few tricks up his sleeve.
Our menu has about 7 different sandwiches on it. We usually run 1, maybe 2 specials, so it's real important that everything is very organized. So now we'll go, let's make a Veggie Mountain. This is the healthy version of a grilled cheese sandwich. And this, again, for small spaces, you can use up your ingredients that you've got. The healthy part, we're gonna go with the 6-grain bread. Butter this, end to end, not too much, but just enough to cover it. We've got some Gruyere, which is, kind of a nicer way to say Swiss.
Yeah.
It's got a nice little bite to it. So we'll throw 2 slices down. I've got some fresh arugula, which I like to put near the cheese so it sticks, it's not sliding out all over the place.
That's smart.
And then what I've got is some shaved fennel.
Yum.
Now, what fennel is it's a bulb of the anise plant, so it's got a very light licorice flavor to it. Kind of elevates it a little bit. We've got some nice fresh Roma tomatoes. I've got some extra turkey. Let's throw some sliced turkey into this one.
Ah.
We've got some wonderfully smoked turkey.
So this is like a great lunch grilled cheese.
Perfect, exactly. I'm not a fan of putting everything down flat when it comes to meats. I like to fold.
Wow, that is quite a grilled cheese.
Oh, we're not done yet.
Oh, man.
We need more cheese. So 2 more slices of Gruyere. And then we just cover it up. And we go to the grill.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love how quickly and sort of easily you're able to put together all of your sandwiches.
It's all about organization and kind of just smooth movement. You have to you got to know your limits of the kitchen.
It's great. It's a very good way to make sure you don't end up overwhelmed.
Exactly, and overcooking and burning and all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Ready to try?
Oh, yes.
And the perfect grilled cheese sandwich.
Look at
Very hot.
that. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
So good.
But the grilled cheese truck isn't the only game in town. So I'm off to see my friends Neil and Samir and Nani at their non-stop truck for some good old Indian comfort food.
Welcome to Nonstop. How are you today?
The Adnani brothers started with their mother's best northern Indian recipes. They had to give those recipes an American twist before taking them to the street.
This is our take on street food. We wanted to make Indian food a little bit easier for people to eat, especially out on the streets, and make it a little more approachable. It's pure Indian, but we just put everything together in a different package.
And by that they mean their now famous nonwich, a flatbread sandwich filled with Indian delicacies and flavors.
Our tandoori chicken nonwich is our most popular item on the menu. It's delicious. We've got coriander, cumin, and a whole host of other Indian spices in there. It's really, really good.
And with Indian food, it's all about the spices. Take the non-stop creamy yogurt cilantro chutney, for instance.
The yogurt cilantro, it would be something at home we would eat it as a side with dinner. On the truck, we put it inside of our nonwiches to give it a little bit of a creamy flavor. First, we take some cilantro, cut off the stems on the bottom, and we chop this up really fine. A chutney, it's just a way of saying it's a condiment. You know, like I was saying, in India, we would call ketchup a chutney. Now that we got all the cilantro chopped up, we're gonna grab some of our yogurt and we'll start mixing this in. So I'm gonna add our cilantro, and I'm also gonna add some fresh cracked pepper. And then this is a little bit of our secret spice, Mom's recipe. I can't tell you what's in there. It gives it kind of an earthy, smoky flavor. Then we just stir all this together. This goes on all of our nonwiches. We also serve it with just plain strips of naan as a dipping sauce, and that's really good too.
And it's one of the big reasons that fans will drive across town to snag one of the Non-Stop's chicken tandoori nonwiches.
This is some of our tandoori chicken that we've already marinated. It's just some yogurt, some fresh squeezed lemon juice, and then a host of different spices. The color comes from paprika and chili and turmeric, gives it that red-orange color. And there's a lot of garlic and ginger, cinnamon, clove, cumin, coriander, and a blend of different spices like that. We're gonna take this and throw it on the grill. I like to get a little bit of char on there because when you toast those spices and brown them up a little bit, it brings out a lot of the natural flavors. A lot of the street cuisine that you see is fusion. You've got Korean tacos and Japanese burritos and things like that. And I think that's because it's really easy to eat on the go. We kind of drew on that inspiration a little bit, but it was really important to us that all the ingredients through and through be Indian top to bottom. The naan we get fresh from a local Indian bakery every day, and we toasted that up on the grill. Naan is an Indian flatbread. It's got a little bit of yeast in it, so it makes it kind of thicker and fluffier than a pita bread. Put some of our tandoori chicken on top, and we grab some of our masala sauce. It's like a tomato and onion and garlic gravy. Put some of that inside. Grab some of our sauteed onions and peppers right here, and we top that with that yogurt cilantro chutney that we made earlier, and a little bit of fresh spinach leaves. We wrap that all up so you eat it just like an Indian burrito. One chicken naan ready to go.
So how did the food truck crowd respond to something as unusual and unique as a non-witch?
For the most part, the response has been great. And that's really encouraging. We're working 16, 18-hour days. That's really what keeps us going.
Inspired by the non-witch, I'm headed back to my own kitchen to combine some classic Indian and American flavors.
So I'm back from the food trucks with tons of inspiration for how to prepare my grilled cheeses. And to pair with my grilled cheese, I'm going to make a curried tomato sauce based on the flavors and inspirations I got from Nonstop. So I have basically everything laid out right now. I just have a few more ingredients that I have to finish up. I'm going to start with the ginger. And to grate the ginger, I'm going to use a microplane. And similar to zesting lemons, I'm going to ginger the grate. Just take my nub of peeled fresh ginger, and I'm going to grate it across just like this. So next, I'm going to press the garlic, and I like to do that because it gives the garlic a really nice consistency. It kind of just melts into the onions that way rather than getting little chunks. Perfect, just enough. And garlic's one of those things that I feel like you can always add more if you prefer it. Next, I'm gonna squeeze my lemon. I only need about a tablespoon, but I'm gonna squeeze the whole half just in case I wanna add a little bit more. So you just can stick a fork in it, make sure there's no seeds, and you just squeeze. There we go. And before I take everything to the stove, I'm gonna dice my tomatoes so they're ready to go. I'm gonna take these off the vine. And because I'm putting these into a stove, it can be kind of a rough chop. It doesn't have to be anything perfect or kind of fancy. You can be a little bit rustic about it. Off to the stove. So first, I'm going to dry toast the cumin seeds. And all that means is I'm adding the cumin seeds to a completely clean pan. And the reason why I'm doing this is just to let them get toasted, really bring out the flavor. I don't want to add any oil at this point because then they might stick to the pan. I'm using whole cumin seeds, but you could see cumin powdered in your grocery store. It's the exact same thing. I like using the whole seeds though because it's a much stronger flavor. Next, I'm gonna add a drizzle of olive oil and then the onions. So you don't want to do too much olive oil, just enough to coat the pan and the onions. And we're going to saute the onions until they get really nice and golden brown. The deeper the caramelization, the better. And I'm going to add just a pinch of salt and pepper just to season the onions. You have to be patient when you caramelize onions. It's just one of those things that takes time. You don't need to do anything funny to it, like adding sugar and then it'll speed up. You just have to sit and wait and kind of babysit it. Now I'm gonna add the ginger and some garlic. So I'm just gonna add about 2-3 teaspoons of ginger. Now, just to make sure it gets a little bit toasted, I'm gonna add my garlic. We haven't even added most of the ingredients and it already smells amazing. So everything is nice and incorporated, and now I'm gonna add my tomatoes. while the tomatoes cook, I'm gonna add my masala powder. So just about 2 to 3 teaspoons. It depends on really how much of the flavor you want. Wow, now it really smells like Indian food. It's delicious. So I'm gonna let this cook down, and then I'm gonna add a couple of finishing touches, and then we get to make our grilled cheese. So my curried tomato sauce is off the stove, and it looks and smells pretty delicious. So I need to add my last couple of finishing touches. So I'm gonna do a little bit of lemon juice just to brighten it up with some acid. And then a big hefty pinch of cilantro. I love cilantro, so I always add a little bit more. So just to make sure everything's in balance, I'm gonna give it a quick taste and adjust. Ooh, you can really taste the masala powder. It comes through loud and clear. So I'm gonna spoon this off into a smaller bowl so we can use it for dipping our sandwiches in. And this curried tomato sauce is essentially a masala, which is a big staple in North Indian cuisine. It's essentially just onions, tomatoes, cumin, and then whatever type of curry powder you add, plus a little bit of ginger and garlic. What I love about this dish is the versatility. If you add vegetables, it makes an amazing stew. If you add broth, it can be a delicious soup. And if you add a little bit of sugar and vinegar, you have an amazing ketchup. Just a little sprinkle to make it look pretty. So on to the fun part, building our grilled cheese sandwiches. And I'm gonna start with one that I'm really excited about. I'm doing an English farmhouse cheddar and chutney to go with our masala-inspired tomato sauce. So to do this, it's super duper simple. All I'm gonna do is use my chutney and spread a little bit onto my bread. And chutney is essentially a mango sweet and sour jam. And depending on what kind you get, it can pack a lot of heat, which I love. And it goes brilliantly with a white English cheddar, or any cheddar you please. I was so inspired by the guys at Nonstop and my friend Kirthi to do something that used sort of English-inspired ingredients like a cheddar and Indian ingredients together. So I came up with this idea for our grilled cheese. And I really love chutney, so I am adding it on both slices of bread. Great, and so now I'm just gonna add thick slices of cheddar. So I'm gonna kind of slightly overlap just to make sure we get lots of goo. Okay, and the last one's just right on here. So now I'm just gonna press them together. And to prep them for the griddle, I'm gonna add a little bit of butter on each side. What it's gonna do is it's gonna make sure our bread first off doesn't stick to the pan, but it's also gonna get it really golden brown and give it that classic grilled cheese crunch. And you wanna make sure your butter's really nice and soft so it spreads beautiful. Looks pretty good. All right, I can't wait to griddle this. I'll spread the other side. Well, now it's grilled cheese time. These look great.
So can America and India come together between 2 slices of toasty bread? I'll let my friend Kirthi be the judge.
I'm so excited that I actually got to use all of the Indian pantry items in one dish, which is the tomato sauce.
Well, I think the best part about it is you're taking something that's classically American. I imagine coming home from a long day at school and then being like, oh, Mom, I'm so hungry, what can you make me? And then she's making me a grilled cheese. But now, now she's taking stuff from her own Indian side of the pantry and putting it together with this is just gonna be delicious.
Tell me about the basic Indian pantry.
So the basic Indian pantry has a couple different things that go along in it. There's the spices and there's the vegetables. For the spices, you have an assortment of curry powders. And the way these curry powders are made is you take a combination of curry leaves, ground pepper, dried chilies, and you put them in like a pestle or mortar, and you grind them into a fine powder, and that's what makes curry powder.
Wow, so curry is not a single spice, it's a whole mixture of spices.
Exactly, it's a combination of a lot of stuff coming together, and that's why each family has some of their own methods of making their own curry powder, because let's say some grandma said, hey, I'm gonna put a little bit more pepper or a little bit more dried chili. That's gonna change the taste of the curry that way.
Wow.
And as far as vegetables, As you can see, even with this dish here, we have onions and tomatoes. These are the two basics, the staples that are in almost every Indian dish.
Well, let's dig in.
Let's dig in, awesome.
You're digging it?
I love it.
Let me get some of this tomato sauce on there.
You know what I love about this too? We're eating with our hands. We're totally in India right now.
That's great. So it's truly an American-Indian mashup right now.
Exactly.
I really love the way the depth from sort of the caramelized tomatoes, the brightness of the tomatoes, the cumin, that amazing
It
masala
really just
powder.
comes together.
What I love is just in this one meal, we just took a trip from America to India, halfway across the world, just by adjusting a couple of flavors.
Exactly, and that's, you know, a little piece of home away from home.